He went with the girls weekend out. That's dangerous.
Right. Begin our meeting, the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions, changes to the agenda? I think we'll just do ambulance rates under fire department, right? We'll just move that up to there. Along with other fire department things that over to that.
I have a deletion of number 5.
Okay,
Okay,
We did not get their background checks, so I said we're just gonna put it off to. So we have that taken care of.
so we'll go to our meeting minutes from March 10th
I move that we accept the minutes.
by Trustee Casey and seconded by
a second.
Mark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And our abstract dated today, number 18, in the amount of $156,158.98.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fire department?
Like we have got an application.
And we have a Jennifer Gonzalez. And so Liz, please.
We see.
EMS, actually beyond the fire department, EMS, ambulance. So move. Second.
Moved and seconded, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I have 2 of our annual service contracts for ladder and hose testing. I believe they both average somewhere around $1,700 a piece. They're in the 3410.4 account, but it's annual testing that we do per NFPA.
So move.
Moved by Dan,
Second.
second by Mark. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And the last thing that I have is months back, you guys let me surplus the old squad. I've found a buyer for it. The Chittenango Fire Department for $20,000. We do have some repairs to do to it before we sell it, but we'll take care of those. So I'd like to sell it to the Chittenango Fire Department for $20,000.
Motion, moved by Mark. Seconded by Dan. Any discussion, questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor? No.
Aye.
And then Lori's got the rates for the ambulance billing. And generally, we do this every year or every other year. Try to get the rates in the central New York market. I believe by law, we can raise them 5% every year. Just because the rates are what we're moving them to doesn't mean that's what we get paid,
Correct.
because they're prorated down horribly. So
So currently, the rate that Fayetteville is charging for ALS 1 is 1,700. The average rate is 2,000. This is what the chief has requested, that we go with the CNY average rate. ALS 2, 2,150 to 2,400. BLS. Does anyone want to know what these acronyms mean? Advanced Life Support 1, Advanced Life Support 2, Basic Life Support. So that would be 1,400 to 1,600. And then there's a mileage fee that we can charge, and currently right now it's 35 and the average is $40 a mile, right? And no transport and, so what does that mean? So if I just show up on scene and you give me advanced life support, but I don't get transported anywhere, you
So
charge me $250 currently.
if we do vitals, if we do any kind of care, it's 250. I believe there's an ALS non-transport.
There's an ALS no transport and a BLS no transport. One is 250 going to 375, the other is 200 going to 225.
Okay, so the ALS one is if we have to give you like a medication for a diabetic or a wake up or Narcan or something like that, and you refuse treatment. So that's
Treatment or transport?
if they refuse treatment and we don't transport, then it's the smaller of the two. The BLS one is basically if you get a bee sting or something like that, or if we have to just give you a vitals on a car accident. Is the 250 or 375 it's going to. And I believe there's one more there for like a lift assist.
Right.
So
Is there a look on that sheet?
I think there's a,
Probably down further.
Steven.
I didn't see it.
well, they may do the BLS one, but it's,
I didn't know.
we get a lift assist bill now for $50, so there's gotta be something for a lift assist.
Lift assist is somebody's in a nursing home, they fall down and they need somebody to
So
go
these
there. and help
numbers are the
them
ones
pick it
you're
up.
going to, or these are the ones that we have currently,
So there's a central New York column there,
right?
that's what we're gonna go
That's what
to.
you're gonna go to.
And then there's a
okay.
last column that is,
The high side. of
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
which are, holy crow.
The high side is 3,700 and we're at 1,700.
Yeah,
Why would someone be at the high side?
because they can. I mean, again, you're not
It's the-
getting,
It's the community they live in accepts it.
and again, you get a portion of that.
Well,
By the time the
yeah,
insurance gets done with it,
Done with you.
emphasize what you said in the beginning.
yeah,
We can put the rates out there, but
you get a
No, I
portion of it,
understand that.
so.
I mean, so you're looking to, change your rates, and these are
Comparable to
comparable or
everybody else.
commensurate with rates around here.
Yep.
That's why we have Central New York listed on.
Yep, and I know that when we approve it, it'll go up the street and Manlius is going to do the same thing.
Well, I think we should be commensurate with rates in our county.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so a motion to increase our rates to these rates that were just mentioned.
go move.
Second.
I would like a copy of that, just.
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Oh, you
'cause I
can,
would
I
have
mean,
a lot of trouble.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure that's.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments?
I think you can have that, because if I need a copy, you can make me a copy.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, I was just looking at it.
Yeah, they're gonna send us a regular document to sign anyway.
All right, all in favor?
I
Okay.
That's all.
I didn't hear from you.
It was a quiet week. They got busy this weekend, but the week was very quiet. Month's still busy, but the week was quiet.
Well, I think we all look forward to our little weekly. Let's see what you're doing. Try doing.
First thing Monday morning, she filled with.
Yep.
Great report.
Try to get it
Gives us
out.
good- It really gives us a good overview. Thank you.
Okay. DPW, I didn't hear from him, or did I talk to him today? I don't.
He said he really didn't have anything, being that he has a budget meeting on Wednesday. If there's any questions or somebody has, you can also ask that day, but he really didn't have
Okay.
anything.
So I think just to carry over from what was discussed last time was that they are out fixing winter damage from snow plowing and things and just doing their normal springtime types of things in some of the parks as they're able to and obviously doing their normal everyday types of jobs. Trash, recycling and keeping up with everything.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that's what
I spoke with Tyler and Bobby about this, but I walked by it again. Obviously, it's right, it's my front yard, so I'm around it a lot. But our pond is getting pretty cluttered as it drains into the creek. Not so much the open water. And as you get to the creek, every winter, all of the bottles and balls and shoes and mittens and hats that fall,
Had to
that
get there.
remain on the ice and then go in, they all tend to get caught, on
the
either
outlet,
side,
but
yeah, which is fine. But I'm just noticing, it just seems like some dredging might be necessary soon.
Well,
I just want to
asked
bring it
one of
up.
one of the neighbors, when I talked to this person, they had questioned the dredging of the whole pond. And when I talked to Bobby and Tyler about it, they said that perhaps at the entrance and the exits where it
Yeah.
is blocked with the fence to keep the fish in the pond. That those areas might need to be cleaned out a little
Yeah.
bit and or see how they would do that without losing the fish, obviously one side
Yeah.
or the other, so.
The-
have to look at that.
The leaves tend to all blow down there and then they kind of sink, so.
Okay.
Whatever, I just noticed it.
So I don't know if it's the whole thing that needs it or just those things, but they felt it was just those
Sure.
areas more so than the whole pond itself.
My very
done.
uneducated parochial view is, yes, it's at the creek kind of mouth, if you will.
Yeah.
Those two areas are really
Yeah.
cluttered. Also, some kids, shouldn't say kids. Some person is feeling particularly strong and moving very heavy boulders that line the park, and they're on the Lincoln side. And my brain just like, this looks like a couple of people, a dare, I bet you can't move that.
Oh, okay.
And they're the top ones that could easily be moved back in there by someone who wants to take a
Strong.
dare. I dare you can't.
You dare I can't put them back?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know if DPW can go take a look at that and get them back in before the dare goes further, and
Did they have a function?
On
or did
Lincoln?
they-
yeah, they're part of the wall.
Oh, okay.
On Lincoln?
Yeah, in front of my house.
I didn't notice that.
I'll take a look too. I haven't been over.
The final question is our friends the geese, or comment, I should say. They're back.
So when
Get-
Bobby and Tyler
Huh?
were here the other day, we
He
had,
gets them.
we had
I
a just,
didn't know, I just mentioned I see them a lot, and of course, we do a little two-step down the walkway to avoid.
Takes a couple days though, because you can't, by the time you get them and he gets over there with the dog.
Yeah, all right.
Do you ever see him running the dog over there?
I never see the dog,
No.
but I'm not looking for the dog. I don't want
I
to
know.
say.
No, I understand what you're saying. We've
Yeah,
had a
well, we've-
problem with
with
the geese
them.
before, so my concern is how often, clearly it's not often enough.
Just as soon as he sees
Um,
them.
Yeah, but
Somebody could play.
why is he, should we not, like, I don't know. First of all, I don't know who he is, and I don't know if he is literally,
We have a
Traveling
agreement
the
with a
pond.
company called Take Flight,
Okay.
and Jim Craw, our former DPW superintendent,
Right.
has a border collie, Brandon. I
Yeah.
think that's what his name is,
who runs the,
who runs the geese for here and for FM school, athletic
as
field.
part of that other business company that we contract
It's,
with.
yes, they have, yes,
So
we
who
work
calls
for them, not us.
who sees them to call them?
Who sees who?
How
He should be running them on a dog
So
on a
it
regular
doesn't matter whether I
basis.
see a goose or not, that dog should be out
To
there.
be out there
Yeah.
according to whatever
That's-
their
that's
contract.
If there's no goose to chase,
Yeah.
then
The
he's-
dog gets a
Brandon
free
can
day,
go
yeah.
relax. I don't know.
There were quite a few geese
Couple
over the
days
week,
ago.
yeah. Yeah, so
He got them.
it's not a complaint.
They're coming back. I've seen
Yeah,
them
they are
all
coming
over.
back.
They really are.
They're coming back.
It's
It's a good old favorite ground.
They
breeding
see
ground.
open waters.
I have a question. I don't know if anyone can answer it. The New York State Route 5 crosswalk near Shady Lane with that big pull down. I've been asked when it might go back up.
When the
It's
state comes
flashing
to
light.
put it up,
So there's nothing.
we don't
we
have
just-
anything, no.
No, okay.
Somebody sent us an email about the one by Franklin Street School also, and that's not ever been installed yet, but they say it's on the docket for this year sometime. But
Okay.
there is no timetable with that, so I know we've been in contact with the state about this one, but we haven't gotten any worse with this yet.
Originally, the first conversation with the state was your problem. You misinformed, and then somebody else called back from the state and said, oh, we misinformed you. It is our responsibility. We will be taking care of it. I don't know.
As far as we.
I don't know if the nice weather, I mean, we're ready. Everybody's ready. Spring, let's go.
Well, it's like a lot of things. I said this at a meeting the other night. As soon as you get the first warm, nice sunny day, you expect everything done in a lot of different places, my particular work and some other people's work and the village or the parks and the different things in general, and it doesn't happen overnight to get to this point, and it doesn't unfortunately get fixed that fast, but now that we have better I mean, that's something that probably should have been looked at sooner than now, based on weather and or anything else, but. You know, hopefully it will be soon. We can try and reach out to them again and see what they tell us. But when we reached out to them about the one appeared from a concern from a neighboring person, not a village resident. That's what we were told. It's scheduled, but no date to tell us when the schedule was gonna take place, so.
Thank you.
But thanks for asking, because people asked me to or comment about it, so.
Just got asked recently, so.
Sometimes it's better if residents call.
Yeah.
I'll call the state.
Yeah,
State
sometimes,
representative.
sometimes you get more response than if the mayor, clerk, or one of us calls.
Let's call and say we're right.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that a couple times with people on different things and they get a lot better, quicker response than I got.
All right, our flower pots, I sent you an email earlier today. Some of the information was wrong, so Lori and I looked at it and we kind of corrected it or whatever on a couple of different things, so. Kind of our options, I feel, are two. I think that's what we narrowed it down to, right, Lori, or three?
There's three
There's
options.
three options, so if we go with the traditional flower pots that we've had in the village, that accounts for 67 flower pots. Some planted with petunias and some planted with begonias, that's what we've done the last few
They got it.
years.
They gotta have white. There's no white.
Okay, we'll worry about the colors in a minute. once
Oh,
we
I
spend the
know,
money.
they're not,
The colors don't,
they,
the money
We're worried
doesn't,
about green.
yeah, I know.
Right.
I'm worried about it too, but I want white in them.
the money, the flower color doesn't change the price, unfortunately. Not like buying a car or something else. So if we could continue to do the 67 pots that we've been doing the last several years. If we do some with begonias and some with petunias, like we've done the last several years. To plant and maintain them for the year is around $31,900. If we are to plant all 67 pots, like we have the same number of pots, but plant them all with begonias as opposed to the combination of begonias and petunias, we bring that cost from, say, 32,000 or whatever I just told you.
31,900.
31,900 down to 25,700. And then I've had discussions with each of you individually, not as a board, and we haven't made any kind of decisions, but in order to have something to talk about, I think all of you, if we were to eliminate some of the flower pots and plant them, the real cost saving then would be if we were going to do 34 pots, so approximately half of the pots that we had last year. We would still do some with petunias, some with begonias, because going all begonias at 34 pots was only a matter of like $400 difference. So we would still keep the mixture of flowers. We would just reduce the number of pots, locations, and that's 16,184.
That's the one I want. But I want white. And mixed in there.
You can get that with the petunias.
What?
You can get that with the
Petunias
petunias.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
they,
so begonias.
Canastota and Chittenden got white in there. We never get white in there.
My concern, I clearly respect the reduction in cost. My concern is. I don't know how we got to 50% of what we had, and at some point. A reduction of the number of pots, they all just kind of disappear, like you don't even know they're out there, I think.
Well, I think
So I
the
don't,
thought was, number one, we had more vandalism last year than we've ever had. We've had cars hit them down on High Bridge, so the thought, I think.
If
Mayor
we,
talked
well,
about
I
not
think
going
if we were going to reduce the number of pots. We used to have them from Burdick Street through to the post office. We had one at the entrance to Brookside that got damaged and lies like 2 or 3 times last year, to the point where we did not place one back there for the remaining part of the year. We put one at the entrance to Signal Hill, one across the street at Briarbrook, so they kind of extended that way. Going north from here, we had one at the corner of Elm Street near the fire department pad on that side of the building, which has never really done that well. We had a few down North Manlius Street, but again, we tried to put them on all the main thoroughfares, like coming in and out of the village. If we reduce them, I would say that we concentrate them in the park across the street, like we've been doing, up and down Genesee Street through the historic district as far as Burdick. Perhaps as far as the post office again, senior center up in that general area. And then perhaps a few up South Manlius Street or just at the park itself. So concentrate them in a smaller area rather than spread them out. When we had 1 or 2 on High Bridge Street coming in, they did not make, in my opinion, only, they did not make as much of an impact as they do. And that's what I think you just said. But in general, 1 or 2 down North Manlius did not make such an impact. 1 or 2 at, across from each other at Signal Hill and Briarbrook are nice in the entrance to those places, but they didn't make such an impact.
What about this? I hear what you're saying. I don't.
Okay.
I am interrupting you, so I do mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. I wanted a discussion. I don't want
Yeah.
to be the talker.
Well, I'm gonna answer your first question. Your first question was, how did it initially start?
Well,
Started with donations.
well,
There was
so,
a-
okay,
There was a lot of
okay,
donations,
so-
but you asked that question first. You said, what was the
yeah,
number?
that's fine. Thank you. Thinking, if we do cut, I like them, obviously. I think they have an impact on the village, and I think that they make the village look like we care about the village. And I do know they're expensive, so we have to care effectively or efficiently. But what about, instead of asking blanket donations, what about going to neighborhoods and somehow getting the question out to them saying, if you want a flower pot at the end of your street at Signal Hill, it would cost X.
And
Are you willing to pay for that price? If the
And they
answer is
did.
yes, then we do it.
The Orchard has done that because the
Sig-
Orchard wanted.
Signal Hill did it too.
So like,
That's
if
soliciting though for funds.
And we can't do that. we can't do that.
We can't do that.
So if we like the idea of 67 pots, let's just go back to the basics. If we like the idea of keeping all the pots, no matter where they're placed or how they're placed, what's the feeling of the difference between a petunia and a begonia? Because I think the begonias look nice in the pots, but that's my opinion, not that of anybody else in the world, perhaps.
I have personal opinions on flower preferences and I don't care. Like, I will make sure my house has the.
I mean, I
flowers
guess
that
what I'm
prefer.
saying is if we wanted
I don't
to
care. I think
change the program this year and keep it, reduce the cost by a little bit, we could continue to do all the pots and we could plant them all with begonias and we could save
You can try all begonias and we can all see what it looks like. We've never done it.
or
There's-
whatever. And
There's places, there's places where there's pot. Go up Manlius Street. There are probably 9 different pots on Manlius Street, South Manlius.
So let me ask
That's a
this,
lot of pots.
to Dan's point, what was the final number? I didn't write it down. Half of it was
34.
I'm sorry,
34.
you're
pots or cost?
good.
34 pot plants would
Right.
cost $16,184. So
Okay.
Mike gave us 2 estimates for
Yeah.
67 and 1 for 34.
So
Yeah.
this is my thinking, to Dan's point. Let's be really intentional about where we put these pots, and if we have found problematic areas. Perhaps it's too open to random vandalism, and it's not a good area to put an investment of taxpayer money. Maybe there's like on, what is it, South Bailey Street? I don't know which, is that south? I always
That's
because I
south,
screw it up.
North to Manoa.
I disagree with Dan. I like them on South Manley Street down to Baird Park.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think it looks really, really good, and that to me is. speaks of the
I
village.
do agree
How
that
many are there around the park?
I don't know.
over here, probably like
Well, the
nine.
park is in and of itself beautiful.
Yeah, okay, but there's,
That's where I would say maybe we don't need one in the park because the park speaks for itself. It is
I think
beautiful.
it comes down to, I understand it's a board discussion,
No,
but
this is way too much time on flower pots.
it comes down to, we're trying to do something with our budget.
Yeah.
And it's huge, it's half, so
Can I-
is there,
Can I make a motion that we agree to,
but there's a reason why it's coming up now, because I think they
Because
have
we
to
gotta
plan
get
that.
planting pretty soon. So first of all,
May I
let's
say
just
one
start.
thing?
You
Just-
can say something I want to, go ahead.
That the company used to do a flower sale to help offset the
Well, we,
cost.
the Medi did a flower sale. They used to provide the plants and then, so they
The
gave
company
us
who
a
does the
portion of the sale. Yeah,
flower pots would give us the plants to sell. Right, is that what you're saying?
they brought the plants, we manned a sale,
Mhm.
and then they gave us part of that.
Just wanted to put that little fact
Yeah.
out there.
So first of all, let's start with the basics. Whatever flower pots we have, what kind of flowers are we putting in there?
white.
No, not the
Excuse me, I
color.
can get you white and begonia, that's not a problem.
Right,
I thought it-
Just so you know, one of the reasons why begonias are so much less expensive is because they actually take less maintenance.
right.
That's
So
the
the
main.
watering is.
Right,
is
so the
bigger
watering is
part.
a lot less. That's the other part that goes
so
along with it.
The cost to plant any type of flower in the pot is the same, no matter per pot, that's what the cost is.
Right, but the maintenance is quite a bit different. And that's why, when you start looking at it, it's like going to just begonias, if you're thinking about going to 67 pots in order to maintain status quo, you should go to the begonias in order to save the money in order to do that. The real reason they actually moved to begonias, because they weren't using begonias initially. Don't rub your head, Danny. It goes like this, it's because they started finding out that some of the pots had difficulty because they were drying out. They were in areas where the sun was beating them to death. So that's why we ended up.
Or
where
not
they had-
enough sun,
Not, yeah.
but
vice
the
versa,
combination,
exactly.
right, yeah.
So that's why we had a problem because they weren't as stable in the.
We're not stuck on these so 67 we're stuck on, we're not getting any more pots than
No,
67.
no,
Okay.
the ceiling is.
So the
67.
34, we're not stuck on that number. I mean, if you think
don't-
we want 40 instead of
I don't
34,
know,
it's kind of
because-
peanuts or whatever, but
Fits. I am totally in favor of spending our money on flowers that will have a chance to survive well, regardless of what our summer brings, a super hot summer, a super wet summer. So begonia seems to win out for that reason. They're more durable. That's my vote. You can make them white, you can make them green, you can make them purple. I don't care what color they are. So.
I'm not making them white, the people that put the seed in the pot.
okay.
And then
Hopefully
as
they'll
far
put
as
some.
number goes, in my opinion. I'm okay going with 34 pots as long as they are distributed in a manner that gives us a sense of. This is our central area of the village and we love it. Well,
And that's
to it.
what we started with that, and then they doubled, you remember?
Yeah,
Right, we
yeah.
started.
We started with the 35 or
Yeah,
something
because
like that.
they
I
were.
would really
paid
like
for
to
too.
see the
We didn't pay for it.
concentration through the historic district and to the
Donation.
park here and maybe a little bit
When you say
east of
park here,
here.
you mean the
The
veterans?
Veterans Park.
Budget number last year.
It has to go
Thirty.
from point, you have to have northeast, southwest, beginning and ending points, like. If you're going to go from Burdick up through the historic district, you gotta take it all the way up to the post office. Like
Okay.
that,
Yeah, we do.
okay, and then if there's no more left, then you don't do anything north, south.
Well, we're not gonna, yeah, we don't have to have.
I don't know how
Maybe
many
we can
pots
get
it
people
takes.
to adopt the other 34.
That's what,
Adopted
then
pot.
I would talk to somebody else who wants to solicit that, but.
No, I
my
mean,
other
as far
part
as
is
you
I've
get it-
spent far too much time on it.
Right,
I like going to the flower store with a little bit of wine and just saying, I like that one, I like that one.
So, I guess my question, what's the goal? Was the goal to reduce the budget? Or was the, I mean, because if you still went with 25,000, you're still $5,000 less than you spent last year.
My goal is
Right.
to reduce the budget and also there's fewer for those vandals to tip over.
Could you do something like, instead of spending 16 and get 42 at $20,000 and
Yeah.
right, no, I said, we're not stuck on the 34 pots and we can look at some of the areas if you want to, Jane.
I'm also,
and-
yeah, I
and
would, and I'm,
What you wanna do, we just need to probably decide soon how many
do
we
we
need
have a
to.
ceiling of cost? Like not to go over a dollar amount? Would that work?
They could.
I don't know how other people feel.
Well, the
about
problem
this.
is you actually have to lay it all out to understand exactly what's going on. That's really what you have to deal with. Because if we don't do that and get your proper numbers, you're in a position where, you know, and honestly, I don't know where we really should be as far as that number, because I really don't have a good answer for you. I do know we should go to the begonias because they're actually more hardy. And it allows for less maintenance, so it costs us less in order to just put them out there. One of my goals actually is to beautify the community so people feel comfortable. That's exactly what we're dealing with. The other part is so that we actually have it so that it exists here and we don't have them vandalized, because then we just wasted our money, and you're
I
right
know,
about that.
but
But
I-
I don't really like to take it away from the people in those neighborhoods either.
Right, that's what my,
My point is, can we find an alternative in order to figure out where we should put them if that's what's going on?
I don't know, I'm okay. I'm cool with $20,000. And I pulled that one,
We're pulling
Out
that
of
one
my
out
left
of the
ear.
air. Yeah,
Gotta
I
start
did.
someplace.
I did, I mean, you gotta start somewhere, and that may give us 36 pounds.
But to step back and say the reasoning that you're doing this is because this year you're making you're always do each year, but you're making an effort to keep the budget. You know, is
Yeah,
to really make
tight.
it, so there is a reason behind this, you know, to what you're
Yep.
doing.
And there's a lot of fiscal pressures on the village.
So if people say, I really want a pot, okay, but taxes will have to, you can't have everything, I want this, but.
We could also organize it themselves, we could show them how, we can.
Yep.
Right, I mean, my intention is to go to the Orchard Homeowners Association, who have had 2 pots at their entrances and want them. If they want 2 pots, we could add 2 to our order and they can pay
Right.
for them through the village if that's what they want to do, right? That's not
It's
soliciting.
not soliciting, you're
that's
giving them the
just giving
facts
them
and you
the
can say,
facts
this
and
is
the
how much
figures,
it
and this is
costs,
how much
we
it's
can't afford it, what
gonna
you choose
cost,
to
and
do.
this is
There
what
were
it's
people
gonna be.
that did that.
They were, but they were solicited and it's
Um,
fallen.
Right.
So
So
my
this-
motion is then to go with 34 pots at the 17 and change. Quote.
16,184.
And determine how well that distributes in the village. And then if you feel that it would be a good balance to have another 5, come back and ask for it.
Well, we've got to plan them ahead of time. Steve.
Well, I'd like to at least get them going with the initial thought that we
Initial
have.
order.
So if I can tell them that we're gonna go definitely with 34, that we're going to go with begonias, and they're all gonna be red. Then,
No, because the ugly looking pots, they put them in.
Okay.
That's what's nice about the.
all right, so Jane's motion is to go with the 34 pots, begonias. We'll get them started on that.
That,
So-
just so you know, that 16,184 was mixed.
Oh,
Wasn't it?
good.
Oh, yeah, that
Fifteen before it is mixed, that's correct.
I like
That
that.
was a mix.
Oh, yeah, that is
Yeah,
mixed,
was
because
a mix.
if we went with all begonias for this
We
34
can tell them
pots,
about what
it was
you
only
did.
$400 difference.
Go with
So
that.
for $400, we figured it wasn't worth even discussing.
White
Make
flowers.
Danny happy. I'll second the motion, by the way.
Hi,
Okay, I want to say this. The discussion open?
Yes.
I think there's, items that we have to look at it, we're gonna cut down. One of the discussions that we're gonna have later on is how many, parties in the plaza we're gonna have.
Correct.
There's more people who would like to see us put 3 party in the plazas as opposed to 2 and cut down on the number of spots we have. I'm sure that there are people along with that. There's a lot of people who love those parties. And there's, you hear, how many people tell me that they like the pots? I've had a lot of not residents, but other people say, oh, you got nice pots. But I have a lot of people who say, I love those parties in the plaza.
I have some ideas also on how to cut some of those costs there too. as well.
We're
So-
still having the parties, but
You said those costs have risen since you first started quite a bit, haven't they?
Mhm.
So I think the chief has to could provide some,
I'd like to see,
but on there,
I'd
not
like to,
giving it to you to do it, but you
I'll do
ran
it.
them.
no, I want him.
I'll do it again.
I want,
But-
Yeah, because they were much
for it.
less expensive.
he got,
Yeah.
What
he
is
got
this that you'll
thrown
do?
out
Wait,
before.
can we have one conversation?
what
I'm
is
having
it,
trouble
what is it
following.
that you'll do?
I was doing the party in the plazas I did the first 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years of them, and I got no help, so Karen took it over.
Right.
But-
Oh, organizing?
Yeah,
Okay,
but it was, I put signs out, the advertising was a lot different and it wasn't expensive. I didn't buy a tent, I used our pop-up tent and put it out there, and that seemed to be fine by everybody. There's a whole bunch of little things like that, we moved the toilets, we did them for $1,400 and that was it. And I
Yeah,
think they're,
your major difference would be your band cost is gonna be the same, however, we can in fact move. Variety of things, we could actually, we don't need necessarily to use a tent for the stage, we actually can move, at least, we could try one at least to get started. Rather than move them all and not risk everything at one time too, could be a little bit pertinent about what we're doing. And we could move that, so we push that over to Canal Landing Park in the gazebo. So we actually could do that in order to get away from it entirely, put the band right there.
no, you mean put the party in the canal ending?
But I don't think you wanted to talk
All right.
about the actual.
Well, let's-
No, we're not into that.
Okay.
So let's-
I just say,
Let's,
I just wanted to give an example.
let's
Casey's
reel
something
it
about
back in.
pots.
So we have a motion about.
I wanted to give an
34
example.
mixed pots. We have a motion and a second.
So
Casey
then I
has
would
a
feel,
question.
Lori, I would feel that we maybe need to contact all our known neighborhood associations if we're gonna be offering to the orchard, just so that they, it's kind of an equal.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and because they have been donating, but they haven't been donating at the true cost, so. We have to think about what rate we're gonna go for with that, and I don't know if we would go
Well,
for.
we just divide it out.
We'll just divide it out, okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think.
that's what I would think too,
So,
but.
all right, all in favor of the motion that was made?
I,
Okay, thank you.
wait, we didn't hear from everybody.
Yeah, just as long as they're white.
There will be a mix of colors and we will
Okay, just
revisit
remind
the
them.
mix of colors after a while. Okay,
I'm never gonna see these pots in any other light now.
like, gives them
They're
a
definitely.
white spotlight on each one of
We're
them.
gonna paint the pots white?
Somebody probably will.
I should have said it, should have.
Take a look at my window boxes. I always.
so, next, so. Further in some of our budget meetings, we will be discussing parties in the plaza and other celebrations within the village.
Yeah.
Not tonight. MS4 annual report certification, so I take a motion to have me find that. It's been on our website. We haven't gotten any contact or comments, public comment. If you remember at the last meeting, we were putting it on the website. We had a presentation from Dave Hanny about it, and so now it's time, we have to get it back to them before April 1st, so.
I moved that we
Second.
accepted.
we can check that in, okay, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, so now James kind of talk to us.
Yeah, I'm gonna
about
make
some
it
of the first thing
brief.
here.
Quick, zoning update, we're in a good place, we had a lot of really good conversations about. Our current zoning map and changes we wanna make to it. As well as changes to, some of our zoning districts. When I say we, I mean the entire committee along with the consulting team. There was such a good conversation about it that the consulting team wanted to go back a little bit to the drawing board and come back with another recommendation. So I just want you to all know where we're at in that process. We are having very good, when I mean good, I mean productive conversations about accessory dwelling units. Could be, if they're going to be allowed, big ifs there, but those could be. I'll use my property as an example. My primary dwelling unit is my house, but I may have enough space in my backyard that I want to build an accessory dwelling unit that would be a second structure on my property for dwelling purposes. And we haven't even touched on the dimensional rules about that, how much of a side yard setback, how much of a backyard set, you know, we haven't even talked about that.
Well, there is now in our code.
There is now, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
So I'm just telling you
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
we're at on these discussions. Nothing is even close to being even ready to be cogently presented to the public. We have to still work through some specifics, and then at some point, we are all hoping that in spring or early summer, we have our first public meeting. So we open this up and show the public what the conversation's all about.
Sounds good.
So. Okay.
We're
So
not
that's all-
there. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so if somebody came along and wanted to put something in their yard, which would be a living quarter. There would be a way to do it, what you're saying?
Maybe we're looking
Okay,
at
maybe.
whether we want to do that or not. There's so many questions around that. It's a maybe. We just wanted to put it on the table.
On the table for everybody to comment on, or just for the committee?
The committee to begin the conversation to
I
come
like
with it. And
I don't like a lot of things about zoning, but I like that.
yeah, but there's so much to consider that we don't want to just throw it out to the public. We want to really think through, for example. To use my property again, let's say I wanted to build an accessory dwelling unit in my backyard so that I could then rent it out to somebody else. I have no intention of letting my family use it. I want to make money. Do we care? It's a question mark.
Yeah,
Number two,
I care.
what if I then sell my property? Can somebody buy the whole property and nobody live on the property and rent out both structures now? So all of these kinds of potential are being discussed now, and people are weighing in what could not work, what they like, what they don't like, what neighborhoods it could work in. It might work very differently in Signal Hill versus the center of Fayetteville. So we got to go through it all. We just have to look at it. That's where we're at. It's complicated, it's complex, it's fun, it's hard. We're not moving at the pace that we thought we were, because people are being very intentional in their conversation.
But you've always told us it's gonna take
Yeah.
a long
Gonna
time.
take some.
I have a headache every time I get done with a meeting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not
Senior
simple.
Center Cottage. We're really actually moving along. This is great news. We have the windows ordered. They're going to be picked up. They're going to be installed hopefully in the next week or so.
They're
We
They're
paid for-
ordered, they're in, they should have been installed today, and they're gonna be putting in probably starting this week.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because once that's done, we can then move on, the plumbing and electricity. And we can get those pieces done. We still have doors to consider and some other flooring and things like that. I won't bore you with it all, but I just, we're getting moving on it again because the warmer weather is here. The other thing about the senior center is that, the mayor and I did go to a neighbor's house who has commented about the intensity of the lights at the senior center when they're on at night. And she wanted he and she wanted us to actually experience what they experience every night. And the good thing that happened for everybody is that when we got there, all the lights were on, and while we were standing in their living room talking about it, all the lights turned on. So we actually got to see the comparison. It's bright.
Mhm.
It's bright. And so the first step is to consider finding some bulbs that are not that harsh white light. And maybe we can dim it down a little bit that way. But we're also looking at other alternatives. We're just looking at it. We realize that this is something that is bright and doesn't really need to be that bright. And
We
so
have done a couple of things, haven't we? Oh,
we turn them
previously.
off, they turn off. So the seasons make a difference, right? If you're in the summer season, they never really turn on.
Hmm.
Because by the time the senior center is done with their activities, 90% of the time, they don't need light in the driveway to allow attendees safely to get in and out. We always need lights on in the back of the parking lot to keep the hooligans out of trouble, to help them stay out of trouble. Then in the wintertime, it gets a little more dicey because we do need lights as early as 4 o'clock and they stay on until 9 o'clock. We turn them off at 9 o'clock because that is, again, the hour where the activities at the senior center are sure not to be on or happening. So those are some of the measures we've taken. We have taken other measures, but they're just not making a difference. And I think it has to do with the grading too, right? Because they're downhill a little bit and the senior center is uphill a little bit. And so when you put on cutoffs that are kind of at an angle, they're not really cutting anything off.
Right, they're looking at it, basically, if I was standing in their living room, they're looking at the senior center over here.
But they're
It's not,
looking
they're not
up.
straight onto it, and they're looking at it from an angle.
We gotta, so we're looking at that. No known costs associated with that right now, and so we're just gonna look at what our options are. Good Park, you guys all heard last meeting, what they're looking at there, so the immediate step that they also need to look at is taking down some very dangerous dead trees. So I talked to Bobby about that, and Bobby has the name of the person who took down the dead trees in the bird sanctuary. And we're gonna get that person, see if they can help out and do their part. Community garden, we're just beginning. Gwen offered to help, and she has put out an email inviting everyone who participated last year to come into a one-time meeting to have a conversation about whether they have any interest at all in a community aspect of gardening. Right now, that community garden is set up so that every bed can be used by an individual person or persons for their individual use. And this year, I thought it went well last year. Everybody who wanted to participate did. They got a bed and, things worked out really well. I didn't do any gardenings, but it looked like there were some decent harvests and stuff. So this year, I thought if anybody is interested and we can get a collection of a few folks who want to run a few beds so that we garden collectively, we share the load, share the responsibilities. And then when the harvest comes, we share them with the community somehow, like a simple, easy farmer's market out of the cottage or something. I don't know. That's yet to be further defined, but at no cost to the village. But just as an opportunity for those who love to garden. And I don't know that there's any particular need to be met in terms of homegrown food, but it's really more of an idea of community gardening. So if anybody here is really interested and wants to jump on board, let Gwen know. She'll tell you the date and we'll have a meeting. And if nobody's interested, the idea drops this year and we stick with individual beds.
Any of the seniors at the senior center are interested in that? 'Cause that
They
would-
could be, but they're.
Probably not.
Okay.
Just being realistic.
Yeah,
I'm not,
That's right.
I'm not saying that to be funny, but.
I'm starting with those who are gardening because you have to really be interested in gardening.
Yeah.
I do not want to take on the responsibility of a community garden and have two people show up every summer. Right? I've got my own to take care of and it's a lot of work. And if you're gonna do it right, you have to do it right. Like, I'm not gonna enter into this and not really take care of that garden. Otherwise, we are going to have a mess.
Right.
I mean,
But
literally.
it could be,
because food being
perhaps the
grown-
first year it could be a combination of community gardens, some gardens that aren't taken by people.
Yeah,
become
I
community
expect it to
gardens
be community.
And
I
other
mean, a
time,
mix.
or eventually it may just all be, it could morph into one or the other. or a
That garden
combination,
is
but-
so big.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
You could easily have several folks who want to do it on their own. And then folks who
And then
like
have a
to.
few abilities. to do-
Easy, there's so much space there.
There's actually-
If it wasn't the responsibility of one particular person, you might interest some of the senior center people to participate. I'm going mainly from a couple of different things. One, I don't think they would take it on just, even if it was 5 or 6 of them to say, we will take care of this part of it, but 5 or 6 might say, we will participate with you and you and you
Yeah.
and you to do that. The other thing that is from what the senior center board has expressed and Janet has expressed is a lot of seniors that go to and participate at the senior center are not looking to be actively working at the senior center, say, or whatever. They're not actively looking to work anymore. They're looking to participate and not necessarily just in people things, but young people things too. But they're just looking to participate. They're not really looking to run or organize or do
Yeah,
certain.
yeah,
types
I
of
was
things
thinking more
that
just
way.
like a plot.
Yeah,
Jane, after the meeting, talk to me about it.
Sure.
I have a lot of ideas,
I did,
and you probably
this-
have covered most of them already.
I did maybe made a misstatement. If there is interest in a community garden, and I'm expecting at least 4 people, if not more. Then, and I did talk to Bobby first, then Bobby and Tyler, their crew, they agreed that they would help get the garden, the community garden portion of it, tilled and set up, and ready for us to work on. So the individual beds, that's up to the individuals. Our DPW will simply make sure the walkways are functioning properly and that the gates functioning properly and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit of our resources there.
The water source is still working.
Pardon me?
that's
Water source from the
attached
cottage?
to the cottage so far, yeah, and that'll be fixed when we do.
And we'll make
finish
sure
the
that gets
plumbing
even
stuff.
strengthened when we do the plumbing work there, so. Okay,
All
that's
right,
it.
thanks,
all I
Mark,
got.
anything?
I just want to remind people, Canal Landing Park, I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks. The restrooms will not be operational until May 1st, even though we have this warm weather. And that's for our DPW in order to take care of them properly. I just want to make sure people know that. So May 1st is when they typically traditionally open them up. And that's what goes on, because we cannot count on the weather at this point in time. We could still have very cold weather and
Well, we have
freeze
to-
pipes if we turn them on.
And we also have to fix the vandalism from the
Exactly,
youth that
another issue we have to deal with.
destroyed it last year.
Also, a little over a week ago, I was very fortunate. I went to SUNY Morrisville's Renewable Energy Spring Institute. One of our residents in the village who runs that operation actually asked me to come and attend just to view and see what was going on. And they're actually teaching people certificate programs and bachelor degrees and associate degrees and things that are really pretty interesting about people working in the renewable energy industry, working on things in the solar farms, working on windmills. It was really quite nice to see. I've talked to most of the people about this stuff. I didn't see anything that was unusual, but also had a large number of folks who are dealing with geothermal and heat pump industry as well, which would be very important. And the other part along with that is looking for a New York State program to come forward, which would help people within our community who don't have the economic means. Heat New York is actually the proposal that's up there, and our Assemblyman Al Sturpey is working very strongly on that also. So that's another piece that would be very important in order to move forward here to help in our local community. And those are just a little bit of some of the things I've been doing.
Okay.
I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, you know that. Not doing well some days.
Are you done, Mark? Are you good?
I'm done, thank you.
Casey?
Just a couple of things. Yesterday I attended the Matilda Joslin Gage Foundation tea party for Matilda's 199th birthday. It was a really nice event. I was particularly I didn't know this, how much Barbara Vet was the one who really brought Matilda to people's brought her into the public.
Mhm.
So I have a document here that she wrote in 1969 about Matilda. James Lannon, the mayor of the village of Fayetteville. And so I'm gonna see if we can do something with this. They were giving out some copies, but it's really impressive. So and they honored Matilda, they honored Barbara that day, and it was touching.
Nice.
So like Jane, I have a show and tell of this is our plan for this year for the Metropolitan Transportation Council. We finally received it. And we're right in here approved, and it's a $40,000 project.
That's
This
the
is
new project.
This is the new one with the SMTC study of Route 5.
Right.
Jane has
This
another one.
is I was told that this is final. And I asked for a copy for the office, a hard copy for the office, so.
Nice.
So I thought I would give it a. So how is this, why is this important to us? I think all of us, if we can find the time to scan the recommendations that pertain to Fayetteville, that not pertain, but include Fayetteville. There's some recommendations in here that pertain to everybody.
Mhm.
And Fayetteville would be just one leg of it. There are some that are very specific to our community. And I think if we look at those recommendations, we can understand what other grant monies we could maybe search for to help make some of these recommendations come alive.
So $40,000 was the grant that you had worked on for SMTC. That's what we received?
No, we received approval that that study will happen starting in about 2 months. This is a study that was approved last year, but that now is
But
completed.
is that based on the application you submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Myself,
And can
Michaela.
Right.
Right.
We never had a dollar figure of the value of it before.
Now we do have a dollar.
Yeah, it's
The
approximately
40,000.
40,000.
Okay. And then it goes in with it. Okay. Just trying to.
And it will
Right
be
here.
great to familiarize, yeah, for me, I
Right.
want to really get to know what's in that one. And see, is there intersection between these?
Right, and these types of projects are of no cost to the village. Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council, otherwise known as SMTC, they take care of the whole project. They hire the consultants who they want to work with. They run the programming, they run the project. We get a seat, and probably will be you, Casey, seated on the committee, the project committee, actually, and it's advisory committee. And I don't know how it's gonna get set up with this one, but,
They said they'll start with a conversation with us, so I was assuming
Okay.
it might be a few of us.
oh, yeah,
Including you,
okay, that'd be great,
to do the scope of services. So,
okay.
in 1 to 2 months, I kind of
Yeah.
got the impression it would be more like 2. And last week I attended 2 tree-related things. Relief is a local networking group for a region. For me, it was the first time I've attended. I've only read about them. Was really great networking opportunities and a walk amongst the trees. And then the Arbor Day celebration was on Thursday. I was able to get a bunch of materials. This was that's a state and Arbor Day Foundation. So I got a bunch of materials that we'll be able to give out to people when they get new trees in the future. So I got a good supply of those. The materials for Arbor Day are not yet printed. So I have good contact now for exactly who to our New York State Forester. And so that's on that. So there was one other topic I wanted to bring up related to public art.
Yes. And
I'm
that's
gonna
what-
do that
yep.
in a little bit.
Oh, okay,
That's-
sorry.
No, that's what the mayor had asked me about too, and we talked
Right.
about it.
Sure,
and
sure.
then-
Oh, I was gonna talk about it after we got through this. Is
Great.
that okay?
I'm all
Okay.
good.
All right. No, I don't wanna miss that either. I forgot. Oh, in and out of my head, so I just said that story. And then is the tree commission met yet?
No,
Okay, so
Dick
we should-
was away for 2 months and he just got back last week. He wasn't
Okay,
available.
I was
today.
just curious if
Yeah.
they had gotten.
But
it.
we're ready and
for
we have a lot on our plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm just checking to see where we're at.
Yeah.
Dan?
I just wanna, the DPW's been very active. I know they're not here today, but they've been very active filling in holes and doing all kinds of things. I appreciate the work they do. Couple people said, oh, they're all, patching in those holes and cleaning out, people's lawns that, got damaged. Didn't mean they're going on people's property.
No.
They're damaged from.
Lori? Ted?
Just,
Anybody else in the audience? Have anything? Okay, so just a couple things. I have been, well, one person talked to me about the dog park because that's been closed through the winter and stuff like that. I had a conversation with Bob and Tyler about that. They were thinking about the middle of April, opening it up, based upon weather and, or the,
Middle of June.
stuff like that. Is that too? So we'll probably bring that to our first meeting in April, but if you have comments about that, that's I told this person their recommendation was not till like the middle of April based upon, mud and things like that. Now we're talking about the trees, which I didn't know about till now. With the dead trees up in Good Park in general, not that that's specifically near the dog park that would affect the dog park. But if we're gonna have people in and out there cutting trees down or doing different things, I'll
Yeah, maybe
check
they
on
can
that
get that done
schedule just a
before,
little
yeah.
bit more before we finalize that, but
Okay.
just to give people an idea. And if people ask you about the dog park, that was their recommendation, so I was going with their recommendation for now anyways. Thanks. The other thing I have, in case you can talk about this too, so we can have a little bit of a discussion about
That's
this,
great.
is we received an art grant, and part of that art grant paid for, it was basically a grant that was approved for 2 murals. And one was completed on the side of, I'll call it the old post office, but nobody knows the old post office, but
Bottom of Main Street.
but on the corner of Elm and Brookley Drive, the last year, I guess it was, we completed that mural. So that was done. The other mural was going to go on the other side of that building, and that we had submitted in this grant application. On further review and discussion and/or things, looking at property lines and all that, we could paint on that side of the building. We had permission to do that. The type of painting that we were going to have changed with the artists that we were working with, that I don't think anybody really agreed to, like some of the newer suggestions. And the fact that that building sits almost on a property line, so if the vacant lot next to it ever got developed, it would kind of obviously just block that altogether. So I was approached a short time ago by the artists that we have used in the past for murals, with the idea of painting a mural on the side of the Abacoles building on the Brookley Drive side. He sent me some renderings, and frankly, I don't like destroying the look of that building with a mural on an historic building like that. It would have to go through historic board review. They have to go through a lot of stuff, and I just don't think that's an appropriate place for any kind of a painting, unless you could come up with something like we have upstairs in the courtroom from the old bank that shows, old Fayetteville say or something like that. I still don't like the idea of it, but that would be a little bit more conducive to an idea. So Lori had reached out to the county who gave us the grant, and she got this just recently. That says that if we wanted to change the location for the second mural or change what the mural is, we need to resubmit to the county executive's office, that they would need to review a new rendering, artist samples, budget, timeline, and things like that. So where Casey comes into the picture here is she and I had some conversations about murals, and perhaps introducing a mural that was more Native American themed. I don't know if I'll say all this right or wrong, but you can correct me.
Doing great. Doing great.
As far as, again, being historically appropriate for the area and doing something like that. So with this, Lori got a little bit further clarification that we could perhaps still utilize the side of a building.
Actually, Casey got that about the walls,
Oh, okay.
So just so in case.
Oh, okay, so
Is more-
Casey got the information that we don't have to, sorry, I thought it was Lori.
It's okay.
But-
we're-
Brandon Lazore, I'm just the artist you're talking to, has done it on,
I'm
I
like,
don't want to say mobile walls, but basically on boards that could be erected, like that, not the side of the building. Did they say that right?
Yeah.
so they would put up the structure of a wall, and then but not necessarily a wall, it could just be a panel, it could be, I'll just describe it not knowing exactly what I'm talking about, but like a 4x8 sheet of plywood or a series of those that would be depictable of a certain thing.
Are we starting to try to create a pocket park in the area or actually still put it on the side of the building and we could be moved if in fact it was built? Is that what we're trying to do?
No, we're now talking about not putting it on a building, about perhaps doing it on these panels as like a
I do have information.
Yeah, so you can.
Okay.
Speak about that a little bit more.
So partially how I thought, why this idea bubbled up was in our comprehensive plan under natural and cultural resources. We had said that we would recognize and honor Haudenosaunee history and public spaces throughout the village. So that was something that I definitely was a part of, hoping to see in our comprehensive plan. So it's definitely in the back of my mind. And I do, go to art shows of Haudenosaunee people as well as other Native Americans. So there's an artist here in our community, Brandon Lazor. And he has just been developing and doing all sorts of public projects around our area, up at SU. He just did one in Liverpool. He's working on one in the Tully area right now. So his art is developing beautifully. He and his costs are going up. His art is appreciating. So in the most recent conversation with Brandon, which was this afternoon, I got further clarification on this idea of panels, because we had talked about it at a show and, I wasn't totally clear on it. So, what he is doing now is something that he's invented. I was like, is this a method that's widely known? And what he is doing is he'll do a painting for us. And then he turns it into a digital, let's see. We get a $10,000 for an original painting, we will help design. Which should appreciate in value. Then we have the purchase rights to any other things we want to do. He gives you a digital file. And then you can create the panels from the digital file of any size. You can do anything that you want with it, use it in publications, use it, giveaway types of things that we might use for some reason. And then if we want to take that to make a temporary mural, we can do that. And what happens, what he sees as the advantage is that murals have a lifespan. And it's depending on the location and the sun and weather, that can be limited. But in this case, you can reprint your mural, so it's nice and fresh. There's cost savings for him, which would be for us too. We don't paying for lifts. We're not paying, we're not dealing with weather. We are not dealing with a lot of paint. This has kind of come about as a result of COVID too. This was a way of getting art continuing to be out there. So he's currently doing one at Kettle Lakes. The New York State Fair mural in the Indian Village is Brandon's work. And they have utilized this method. So instead of having Brandon come back multiple times to redo the mural, they now take it down after the state fair or after they're using those grounds. The process would be that he's really open to talking with us about what it would look like, and he will listen and try to incorporate ideas that we have. We start with one design meeting that would involve whoever we decide to include in that. Then we have another, he produces a preliminary sketch for us to look at. Then he puts the sketch on canvas to give us a last chance to provide feedback. And then he does the painting and we get the license to all reproduction. In his current schedule, he could start having those conversations with us in May and late April, early May, and we could possibly have something by summer or into the fall. And I did, this is the only piece of Brandon's art I have, but he had this was of treaty belts, but
What else?
treaty belts, the wampum belts.
Yeah.
Belts in a spiral, but he has a website and we can look at it. It's
Is it
Brandon?
Lazor?
Yeah, Brandon, as you would spell it normally, Lazore. And some of the flavor of his work is on there. And it's just seems to be getting more beautiful all the time.
So that's not a painting then, so with that, I mean, it's a painting, but it's not a mural like on the side of a building. We have to go back to the county to see if something
I
like
think
that.
any proposal we
qualifies
have would
something.
be, have to go back to the county.
Right,
I don't know that the county was like, you have to do we got a grant for 2 murals, but that didn't mean that it couldn't be an art grant, like, I don't believe the town, Village of Manlius did murals, I did think they did something else up there, didn't they, in their.
No, I'm just, I
No,
know
yes,
it would have, I know everything would have
as
to go back
long
to
as
the county, but
for
you,
the public display of art, and that's what it would be, it wouldn't be. Well, it would be okay if we replaced.
No, but it's
some
not,
of
it's
this,
not like something I would put on the side of my garage.
Correct. And we even, that's why, the
we
mayor
will
said, you know, I don't know what's on the back side of Canal Landing, you know, the whole. Brick
like the
wall.
side of the bathroom, so you enter the bathrooms facing Limestone Creek. There's a side that's towards the pavilion area, that's a blank wall.
Yeah.
There's a side, you know, which people would see from inside the park if they were looking towards the street again. There's the side, obviously, which is the shorter side towards the parking lot, but that's towards the parking lot, that's kind of like the Reed's end of not using the Freedom of Espresso building on the other side where we have the current mural was because of lack of being able for people to see it and appreciate it, where a lot of people walk into the park to go down the paths and walk out that way. So it would be more visible there, even though it's on the backside.
And they
as
were just
opposed-
throwing stuff around today, just where would it go?
Just some ideas or whatever that way and stuff, so.
Yeah, we've talked about a couple of different sites and they haven't worked out for one reason or another, so, you know, but it was still, we need to keep this going and communicate with,
So is anybody familiar
Steve
with the
Records.
tree place that's between Chittenango and Canastota? Where Quarry Road comes in and they got their whole building, which is like an old barn kind of. Is that what you're talking about, the look of this thing or whatever?
I'm not familiar.
It's almost like a wrap, so it almost looks like, you know,
Yeah, that is a wrap.
yeah, you know,
I
I
use
do know
it's
what you're
not
talking
plastic.
about.
There's too much. First of all, I love the idea I love the idea of taking something a little bit beyond a mural on a wall. I
Right.
think that's great. Because they are finite in life and they're so stationary. If you don't ever go that way, you don't even notice there. So I really like that idea. I think it's great. Let's look up this artist, but I don't have any, I need so much more information. I love the idea of something being mobile, but I don't want to make something at a cost that the village has to endure, you know, every 3 years. Right? So we just have to know more.
Having the rights to it, it sounds like you could even have a print
Yeah,
somewhere
but
in
the
Village
prints
Hall.
are at cost. And to
Sure.
say that, oh, we can have a panel that's the size of that right there, and we can put it up on there. Conceptually, it's fantastic. I've got it down at the Party in the Plaza. I have it over here at the Syracuse Symphony, you know, all of that. But that thing is gonna cost us thousands of dollars to get printed.
Mhm.
And then we have to store it, and then we have to move it, and I have no clue about any or all of that. It's not, I don't, unless you're talking about something you roll up. So we just need to know, we just have more questions, that's
I'll
all.
get you some answers.
I'm so sorry. Touche.
Good job.
So,
I think
Invite
it's
them to
good.
come in.
so then generally everybody's in agreement with pursuing this for information's sake. I'm not saying we're interested in pursuing it to agree to it.
Yeah, there was
But to
definitely
get
at the
more
stage where we needed to come and
information
talk with
and
everyone about it and get
access.
questions like
Does
yours.
Brandon do walls, like if we
Yeah,
want?
Brandon does walls,
If
but
we
we
wanted-
didn't identify a good wall.
Sure, no, that's fine, but if we love the artist, but
Mhm.
we don't, the concept that you're talking about right now, maybe something we can't like long-term afford, maybe we do find a wall somewhere, I don't know.
Right.
And maybe Brandon, you know, as artists do frequently, like they will say, oh, what about this? And I'm like, I never even thought of that, you know what I mean? He can see things a little bit differently than you do. So I love the idea.
I think it
I'm
could be really nice addition
Also
to,
very comfortable with the topic of the mural, of the artwork. Of the Hoover Shine. I'm comfortable with that. I don't know how other people.
I mean, I agreed with, I mean, when we talked before, I was encouraging.
and he was recommending like. So he's got a million ideas in his head, it's kind of going to have to do with us having a conversation with him too. you know, I had a boring idea and he was like, you know. But I think he wants something more cultural, and so there is particular cultural symbols that are in Haudenosaunee art that he incorporates in all different ways. Matilda also had a connection to the Haudenosaunee that is pretty unique. She was accepted into the Wolf Clan, which wasn't something that was happening a lot in the
I know.
1800s.
That's a very
So
impressive statement.
yeah, in the back of my mind, can we get Matilda in there a little bit too? Not a portrait perhaps, but in some way.
Well,
it
maybe
has
she could
something
do a
to
better
with
job.
plants. I would imagine that Brandon could participate with us, by video.
Mhm.
He lives at Akwesasne Reservation, at this point, but he travels down here to do the art, but that would be a good maybe way for us to answer some questions in real time. Anything that
Do we have a time frame on when we?
I think we
this
have
one?
another year on that straight.
I think so.
Approximately.
But so that being said, I still think that means this season, summer, fall, this is the time.
Now's the time
Prime
to
season.
kind of
Yes.
act on it. I mean, a year
Oh,
goes
sure.
by too fast.
No, I'm not trying to put it off. I'm just,
No,
hoping
but
we
it's
don't
not
make a
like, it's
decision
not
next
like
month.
4 weeks or
Yeah.
6 weeks, but it's not.
How much
something-
funds do we have left in that grant?
I think it's roughly,
13,000.
is it 13?
That's what you
I
told
was gonna say, I couldn't remember. I thought I was gonna say 12 something, so 13
Okay.
works.
I'm just trying to get a ballpark to understand. I find this very interesting, by the way, Casey. I really do. And it's one of those things I just don't know where to think about it in proper context at the moment, and I apologize for that. It's what it is.
So can we, besides, maybe his talking to us or doing things, is there a place where one of these panels or one of these things exists outside? I mean, I know you mentioned it was at the Indian Village of the fair, but they take it down. So is there a place where we could go visit that? And you don't have to, I mean, well, you don't have to answer like right now. You can ask them where we could go see one, and it doesn't have to be in Syracuse. It could be somewhere nearby. Or something, I mean, if we could,
I'm happy to ask
if I
every
could-
question.
if I guess I'd like to see kind of what it looks like when it is reproduced and put up on something like that. I mean, it's like looking at an architectural drawing of a plan for a house. I cannot picture what that's gonna look like unless I go see it in person after it's built. I can't look at a plan and read it, so I have something in my mind of what I'm thinking it looks like. But it probably doesn't look anything like that in reality, so.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate
So sometimes
everyone's,
we've done that. We've
everyone's
gone to
response
look at
tonight and the good questions, so thank you.
Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second, all in favor? We'll see everybody Wednesday at 9 for the DPW. And you got those papers today in your box. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Start looking.
Yeah,
at
that's
that.
good. It's helpful to have that.